Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the March 13th, 2024 City of Mesa Planning and Zoning Board meeting. We'll begin with a roll call. I am Chair Ayers, Vice Chair Pitcher.
Here.
Board Member Crockett.
Here.
Board Member Peterson.
Here.
Board Member Montes is excused this evening. Board Member Blakeman.
Here.
Board Member Carpenter.
Here.
And as part of the agenda for today, we have a consent agenda. It'll be read into the record and acted on in one motion. Each of these items will not be discussed individually. And we are going to have Board Member Peterson read our agenda today.
Thank you. So the items removed from the consent agenda are items 3A and items 4B. 3A being America First Credit Union, 4B being the farmhouses at 1902 North Gilbert. The remaining items are no other blue cards for the remaining items, correct? Okay. The items on the consent agenda are item 2A, minutes from the February 28th, 2024 Planning and Zoning meeting. And then take action on the following zoning cases. Item 3B, ZON 23-00897, 5449 South Power Road, within the 5400 block of South Power Road, located south of Ray Road on the east side of Power Road, site plan review. This request will allow for a coffee shop with a drive-through facility and a minor automobile repair facility. Recommendation is approval with conditions. And make a recommendation to the City Council on the following zoning cases. Item 4A, ZON 23-00378, Montorez, within the 3300 block of North Alma School Road, located south of University Drive and east of Alma School Road, rezoned from office commercial to limited commercial with a bonus intensity zone overlay, site plan review, and council use permit. This request will allow for a mixed-use development. Recommendation is approval with conditions. Take action on the following preliminary plats. Item 5A, ZON 23-00329, office spec suites within the 6400 block of East McDowell Road, located west of Power Road on the north side of McDowell Road. Preliminary plat. Recommendation is approval with conditions. Item 5B, ZON 23-01037, West Main Station Village, within the 1300 to 1400 blocks of West Main Street and within the 0 to 100 block of North Rogers, located west of Alma School Road on the north side of Main Street. Recommendation is review of a preliminary plat, and recommendation is approval with conditions. And that concludes the consent agenda.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. So with that, I'll move our wait. Do we have to do the approval and then we can do his case?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I entertain the motion for approving the consent agenda as read.
I would move that we approve the consent agenda as it has been read by Board Member Peterson.
So, and I'll second that motion.
Second. All in favor, please vote. And unanimous, that approves. Appreciate everybody on that one. So then we will, Peterson, are you good talking through the next one for 3A?
So
Or do you want me to do that?
I got it. Item 3A, ZON 23-00857, America First Credit Union, within the 4300.
We need to, hold on, Trev. We actually need to go through that. He needs to step away for this one, correct?
You want me to step away or you?
Board Member Pitcher, you don't have to physically leave, but you please declare the conflict on the record now. Thank you.
I've got a conflict on this one
Yeah.
because I represent the applicant, so I will not vote.
Thank you.
That one, we don't need a presentation, so we can go ahead. I could take a motion for item 3A, correct? We'll open up the public hearing, okay. Open up a public hearing for this one and see if there's any comments. I'm not seeing any comments. So we'll close the public hearing for that one. And then I will see if there's anything from the board for discussion on that one.
Move to approve item 3A, ZON 23-00857, America First Credit Union, within the 4300 block of East Baseline Road and the 1900 block of South Greenfield Road, located north of Baseline Road on the west side of Greenfield Road. Major site plan modification. This request will allow for the development of a financial institution with a drive-up ATMs in the limited commercial zoning district. Recommendation is approval with conditions.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. And then all in favor? We can get it. I think you can vote still. I voted, but it's not showing me.
Vice Chair Pitcher, is there a button to abstain?
There you go. He's hitting it, it's not doing anything.
We had the same problem last week.
Didn't try again?
There it goes. Okay, so with a vote of 5 yeas and with Vice Chair Pitcher abstaining, that passes as well. All right, I think we're good there, so. Yep. All right, now we're gonna move on to the next one. So we'll turn the time over for a presentation on item 4B. Welcome, Josh.
Thank you, Chair and members for the board. This is for ZON 23-00559, also known as the farmhouses at 1902 North Gilbert Road. This request is specifically for a single residence rezone from single residence 43 to multiple residence 2 with a bonus intensity zone. As part of this, there's also site plan review to allow for a multiple residence development. It is located on the west side of North Gilbert Road, just south of East McKellips Road. Per the general plan designation on this site is neighborhood, which is intended to provide safe places for people to live and a variety of housing options, as well as RM2 in this district is a secondary zoning district, while the multiple residence is a primary use in the general plan designation of neighborhood. As part of this, the rezoning is from single residence 43 with existing a deteriorated single residence on the southern lot of the two. From that to multiple residence 2 with a bonus intensity zone, and the allowed use of multiple residence is allowed within the RM2. Here's the existing photo looking west from Alma School. You can see that existing single residence there. Sorry, that is Gilbert Road. And here is the accesses will be located on Gilbert Road. Just to clarify, the northern egress point is purely exit only, while the southern is the entrance for the site, and it's 26 units totally proposed as part of this current proposal, with every unit being a 2-story unit and 2-car garages for each unit, with 10 additional parking spots on site for guest parking, for a total of 62 parking spots proposed. Here's the proposed landscape plan. One of the comments that did come out of the design review board is that the applicant should look at a faster growing tree, more evergreen instead of the oak that is proposed. Staff is still working with the applicant on those changes per the design review board recommendations. Here are the proposed elevations. Here you can get a good idea of the proposed design. It was intended to be more of a farmhouse style that was intended to blend more in with the surrounding neighborhood, because originally the applicant did propose a more modern look for the proposed architecture on this site. As part of the bonus intensity zone, the applicant is requesting these following deviations. The front and street side setback for the 6-lane arterial for Gilbert Road is typically 30 feet. The applicant is requesting a 20-foot setback. This specifically is for those location of the amenities located on the front portion of the site. Design review board did appreciate that location. They didn't have any concerns with it, how it was proposed. However, because of that gazebo, that does require that setback for that 20 feet to be reduced, as well as the interior and side rear for 3 or more units on a singular lot. This is being requested specifically for that northern setback next to the tutor time because of that solid waste enclosure, as well as the parking spots themselves. Because of where they've been located, there's only a 1-foot separation on that northern property line. Also, as part of that, there's a reduction in the minimum landscape yards consistent with those 2 requests for 20 feet along the front and street-facing side of Gilbert Road, and the interior side for the northern side for that 1-foot reduction for that northern property line. As well as the minimum building separation, typically, per the zoning code, a 2-story building on one site would require 30-foot separation. As part of this request, the applicant is seeking 9-foot. As well as one of the comments that came out of the citizen participation process was concerned about the screening and the overall impacts that the proposed project might have on the neighboring properties to the west, the neighbors. So as part of that, the applicant is proposing an 8-foot wall to increase that screening along the western and southern and northern property lines for that screen wall, which typically only 6 is allowed in the multiple residence districts of the MZO. As I'm sure you're aware the citizen participation process on the site occurred for notifying property owners within 1,000 feet, as well as HOAs and registered neighborhoods within the area. Staff has received a number of emails concerned about specifically the density, as well as the height and traffic impacts of the proposed project. The applicant has included all their correspondence as part of their citizen participation report. Staff finds that the overall project complies with the 2040 Mesa General Plan, as well as the requirements of Chapter 21 for a BIZ, and then Chapter 69 of the MZO for a site plan review. Staff recommends approval with conditions. Happy to answer any questions.
Appreciate it, Josh. Questions from the board for Josh? Troy?
Hi, Josh. Thank you for that presentation. Just for some information on your general plan recommendation, in the presentation was RM2 is a secondary zoning district for the general plan. What does that, just explain briefly what that means as far as the compliance with general plan?
Thank you, Chair and Board Member Peterson. So in general, the general plan does specify percentages of the primary zoning districts versus secondary zoning districts. As part of our analysis, we verified that significant portions of the surrounding area are RS6 and RS43, which does meet the percentages of that 70% of that primary zoning district. This is as part of that 30% within the overall area that would allow for that secondary zoning district, which RM2 is a part of that designation.
Okay, got you. And then one other question on the zoning with the bonus intensity zone. What does staff usually look for as criteria for applying a bonus intensity zone to a site?
Yes, Chair, Board Member Peterson. So as part of a review for a bonus intensity zone, this is looked similarly as what would be for a planned area development. We are looking for higher quality as well as kind of looking to improve the quality of development. And as part of this, staff feels that the proposal is consistent with comments that we've received throughout the process, does meet that, and is consistent with our overall review for BIZs.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, go ahead.
And Josh, if I could just follow up on that comment, and thank you for the presentation, but what specifically in this project can you point to that supports the BIZ?
Sure. So thank you, Chair and Board Member Crockett. So this specifically, there are enhanced amenities that typically would not be seen on a site this small. As part of this, the applicant has included a pool as well as a barbecue amenity, as well as a playground. It is located on that northwestern corner of the site, as well as the overall quality of the site amenities and design of the buildings itself.
Okay. And then is this a market rate development as planned?
At this time, Chair and Board Member Crockett, it is my understanding that this is for rental properties. I'm not sure at exactly the rate. I'll let the applicant respond to that.
You good? Any other questions? You got one?
Hey, Josh, question on the ingress egress. I know the northern one, it says on the plans it's for service and emergency vehicles, but in your presentation, I almost heard that maybe that be egress for everybody. Is that correct?
So, Chair and Board Member Carpenter, my understanding, this was a discussion throughout the process between transportation as well as the applicant. There is concerns about that existing median and people making that U-turn there. So at this time, I believe it is just for service vehicles. That'd be those trash enclosures, any kind of emergency vehicles that would be required to that. I believe the applicant has made it clear that this will not be for public use or anything within the neighbors as part of that because of that concern with the U-turn.
Okay, thank you.
You good? Anything on anybody else? You got one?
Hey, Josh. On the west side trees, how big are those trees? Are they, are they going to be significant mature trees, or are they going to be little spindly trees?
So thank you, Chair and Board Member. It looks like, yep.
Sorry, thank you, Josh. It's Evan Ballmer, Principal Planner with Development Services. Just to clarify, this did go to Design Review Board. We are working through some changes, one being the landscape. It was suggested that we get a faster growing tree to help screen that. So we are working with the applicant to make that change to a species that is going to be a little bit fuller, grow a little bit faster to provide some better screening for the neighbors.
So Evan, are you guys also working through the box size, all that as well?
Correct.
Yeah, Chair and board members, and just to confirm, I'm looking at the landscape plan, but those trees are composed of both 24-inch and 36-inch box.
Good. All right, I think you're good on that part. Thanks, Josh. So would it be able to invite the applicant up as well for presentation? As soon as Josh, there we go. Let me get this out of the way.
Chairman and members of the board, my name is Tim Boyle. I work just over here on 114 West Main in the expansive Mesa. What is it? It's a shared workspace. And I also live at 450 North Emerson in Mesa as well. I'm excited to present to you the farm homes at 1902 North Gilbert today, a project we've been working on for quite some time. We'll get into it. I think you know about the location. This is just explaining the site and showing what's happening there. If we zoom out a little bit, you can see the zoning in the area. You have a lot of light commercial in this area, and then you have the Allen, which is a similar sized project, similar density project that we did on McKellips a couple years back, and then our project is right in here. As we like to do these projects, we like to see a buffer between commercial and residential spaces, and so we see multifamily as a really good buffer as you're switching from something that's louder and has more parking and use like that to something quieter like a neighborhood. And so we feel like this is a really good blend going from these commercial lots to the residential lots to the south. There were many concerns. So as I'm presenting this, I'll also be bringing up a lot of concerns. There was a lot of neighborhood feedback. We had several meetings with the neighbors, and I'll be kind of going through that. One of the big concerns was an increase in traffic. This gives you an idea of what the traffic is along Gilbert. It's a little hard to see. Oops, I don't think I can zoom in there. 24,300 daily trips. Our traffic engineers at Y2K Engineering said that we would be creating, with 26 homes, 12 to 13 peak hour trips. Those are the rush hour times. And overall, we would be increasing the amount of traffic 0.05% of the 24,300 daily trips. Give you another little view of the site as we come in. This would be Gilbert Road right here and the entrance. Let me confirm that north entrance is only for solid waste vehicles and emergency vehicles. The residents will be using this gate only to get in and out. And then there was a question about the market rate. Yes, there will be no financing, no federal financing, no government financing on this. It's all market rate. A little bit more about the layout. There's a gate down here. We have 5 parking spaces here. There was a lot of concern about the parking, about there being adequate parking. The neighbors were concerned that there would be overflow parking spilling into their neighborhood if there wasn't adequate parking. Each of the units is a 2-car garage unit, and we've got 5 parking spaces here on the north and 5 parking spaces here on the south. The Mesa zoning code requires 2.1 parking spaces per unit, and we've gone with the 10 additional parking spaces. It's many more than are required for the zoning code. When we're doing a project and it's on a major street like Gilbert where there's no parking right off the side, we try to fit in as much additional parking as possible because we don't want people wandering around from other lots to these lots as well. The tree question. Our landscape architect, Don Campbell, well-established landscape architect, he did several of the desert botanical gardens and the Japanese friendship garden in Phoenix. He's recommending a Acacia mulga right here. It has a quicker growth speed. It has a fuller canopy. Another concern that they had was the oak trees that we had recommended would lose their leaves during the winter. The mulga keeps its leaves year-round, and so that was his recommendation to help with blocking the views between the 2 lots. This project is just down the street from the Allen, which is around the corner. A very modern project that we did that was a very successful project when it was built. When we first designed the project, it was a very modern project, building on some of the excitement that the Allen had built by being a modern project in a town like Mesa that's not known for its modern projects. After advice from the residents and a phone call from Councilmember Freeman, we changed the look to be a much more traditional style home. much more of a modern farmhouse look. We looked at some of the original homes in Mesa. These are down near the Mesa Temple, and we took some design inspiration from those, and we added those to our design of this project. Here's what the internal looks like. These are 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, 2-car garage units. They have a large master suite. These are intended to be luxury units. What we like to say is, if you go to a luxury multifamily project in Scottsdale, like Optima or one of these, you'll pull into a parking garage, you'll wander around in the parking garage holding your kid's hand while cars drive by and you're in a little concrete bunker. We feel that when you can pull into your own garage and take your groceries right in, it's far more luxury than even these upscale developments in Scottsdale and other places. And so we tried to bridge the missing middle. Mesa has a lot of single-family homes and it has a lot of small apartments, and we're trying to create a place in the middle of that. This inspiration came from when I first moved back from New York City. We were looking at developments in the area, and there was nothing small, there was nothing in between. And then as our kids grew up, my kids, now I have 2 of them that should be about ready to buy a house, and there's nothing available to them right now. And so we're trying to create more developments like this that create starter homes for our kids and for the other kids in Mesa. We're also finding on similar developments like this one, they're a sought-after place to retire, where you don't have to mow your lawn anymore, anything like that. And that helps people move out of their existing homes into something close by, and then the next generation can take these larger homes that have been family homes. This is looking across the street. What you typically see in developments in Mesa, along arterials, is you see a large backyard wall, usually 6 feet tall. We like to develop something that is more front-facing, more street-facing, more interesting to look at as you drive by, not just a sump block wall or a CMU wall with a couple of desert plants in front of it and a large barren area. We try to make something that looks like homes, something that works like homes, something that has lush landscape and people moving about. Hence, we put the amenity space, the pool, and the barbecue area in the front. That also creates a sense of arrival as you first drive in to the gate that's right over here. You see the pool, you see the barbecue area, you get a sense that you're coming home. This would be the kiosk where you would push the button to come through the gate, which is right here. This is the barbecue area and the pool right off in here. We're always working on a modern sense of arrival, something that we feel is an essential part of creating a quality project. This would be walking between the units towards the swimming pool, and this is a mock-up of the playground that we would have on the northwest side. Back to the landscape and the trees. I know there was a lot of concern about being able to see out the windows on the west side into the yards that are there. Originally, there were 3-story units mixed in with the 2-story units. There was a very negative reaction to that from the neighborhood, and so we've removed all the 3-story units and made them all 2-story units. There's still a concern about the height of the windows. You can see in this exhibit, we've mapped out where the windows are, the expected heights of the trees, the 8-foot wall, is it showing up a little bit tiny? The sight lines are coming through here. And the concept being that the trees would be designed in such a way and grown, planted at such a size that they would be blocking views from the windows of those units to the back. These 2-story units are set back 30 feet, the standard setback for a 2-story building. If a house was built there, it could have the same windows in the same location. And then these are a couple of renderings, simplified renderings, but this is what the trees would look like from the back. These would be the houses that are on the neighborhood side. So we have the 8-foot wall here, and then we have the trees that are blocking the views. There was concern about the property values and the effect that have. We have the same concern. Our goal is to make Mesa a better city. So we looked at a lot of developments of these similar sorts of units, both in our neighborhood and in other parts of the city. We did not see any negative effect of the values. This is the Allen that's right here, so this development's a little over in this area. As we look around, we don't see any decrease or any major decrease of property values as you approach that one. This is the one, actually you saw this in the study session earlier where they're changing the design of these along Main Street. These are the units that inspired all of our two-story garage units. We also did not see a negative effect on the prices of any of the houses that are closer to that. Another development that uses a similar design, again, we didn't see any change in the house values in the relative area. Sorry, this is going to show up really small. Crime is also another concern that people typically have when multifamily units come in. Because these are gated luxury units, we don't expect to have a similar rise in crime. I can give this to you in a better form so you can read it. I thought I'd be able to zoom on the page. But we don't see a negative, we don't see an increase of crime. This is based around the Allen, which was built in 2018, and this is looking at crime statistics from 2014 all the way up till 2023, and the crime stays about the same the whole time. There's a slight uptick during COVID, as everyone knows, but it went back down after that happened. All right, that's my presentation. Are there any other questions from the board?
All right, any questions from the board? Go ahead.
Question about the people leaving the farmhouses and heading north. Is there a concern, or did the traffic engineer review that in context of people leaving the Quan's parking lot and heading south? So there's gonna be that middle lane there, but it's kind of short between where the median ends. Yeah, so there's not like a...
Yeah, so the traffic rules, I believe it's 125 feet of separation they want between outgoing streets, and it's a little hard to see there, but we have a circle that's drawn. I think it's right about here. We're short of the 125 feet. So traffic isn't concerned about that.
Okay, thank you.
Did you have one, Joe?
So Tim, what is going to become of the existing wall that's along Gilbert Road now, the kind of the pink tall wall there? Is that going to come down? Because the renderings you showed, you see the front of the homes in there. So does that wall come down and get replaced with like wrought iron, or what? How do you envision that along Gilbert Road?
It does, yeah, if I can find the larger rendering. That wall comes down and we have a view fence that sees there. So these houses, the front doors and the slider doors all open onto Gilbert Road. So you can see in and you can see the product like that. We don't want to hide everything behind the walls. We want it to be attractive from the street.
Okay. And question, are you envisioning that these units would be for sale or for rent at this time?
You're never required to say which one. The economics currently show that for sale is vastly better than for rent. And again, since I'm trying to develop projects that my children can live in or I could retire in, the goal for these is always to make them for sale.
Are they platted?
They will be individually platted at some point.
So they'll start to rent probably.
In the future, yeah. We always do that process afterward.
I've just got one question. One of the pictures that you had, what's the separation between the back buildings? It showed the houses. Keep going, keep going. I just wondered what the separation is between the house right there on your development, and it looks like there's 2 or 3 houses that back these.
That are right up here? Oh,
Yeah.
let's see.
Right, keep going. There you go. So you've got that house right there, you've got this house right here. What's the separation between the house and what would in essence be the house that you're building?
We might not have the dimension.
If I remember correctly, because we modeled it, I think that house is somewhere between 7 and 10 feet from the wall.
Okay.
And then our units are 30 feet on our side. So probably between 37 and 40 feet for this house. And then you see that the units start to curve away until they hit about 50 feet away on this side. So this house, I would guess, is also between 7 and 10 feet. And then it's probably 40-ish, 42 perhaps, from there.
On their side, right? So you have 55 plus the 10, and then 33 plus the 10.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Tim, you mentioned on the west and north and south sides that it will be an 8-foot wall. That's a newly constructed 8-foot wall that will be on those 3 sides?
Yeah, the existing wall is 6 feet, and you have to put in a new footing if you go to an 8-foot wall, so it'll be a brand new 8-foot wall.
Just rebuild the new? Okay, thank you. And then what is the height of these buildings, both to the roof and then to the top of the parapet? Maybe those two, yeah.
The roof itself is about 23 feet high,
Okay,
and the parapet is another 3 feet above that,
okay.
about 25 feet. And then I think the peaks of the triangle shapes are somewhere around 28 or 29.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Jamie, you got anything? I don't. No? Good, Jeff, good. All right, I think we're good, thank you.
Okay, thank you, board members.
All right. So now we can open this up for the public meeting. Sorry, I'm making myself organized here. Unless we have anything else. You coming up to present again? Nope. Josh? All right, so I'll start. We have quite a number of cards. So I'm going to start with the ones that do not wish to speak, and I'll just kind of put their positions out there. For everybody else to speak, obviously everybody gets 3 minutes. I will say if you hear comments that you're going to say repeated, if you'd like to be out of here a little sooner than later, I would say you can come up and you could say, I agree with a lot of that, but obviously you guys get your 3 minutes. We're not going to cut you off, but we will be here for quite some time if we don't get through all these. So with that being said, I'll begin with those of you who decided not to wish to speak. And if you change your mind, by the way, let me know. But these are those I have said. And I also apologize up front. If I get names really bad, I'm sorry. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. So Robin Kleinman Robin Kleinman, 1816 East Juniper Circle, is opposed to this and does not wish to speak. We're good there. Lisa Palkovics, and again, I'm sorry if I get that bad, 1612 East Indigo, is also opposed to this and does not wish to speak. Okay. Robert L. Brooks, 1832 North Gilbert Road, also opposed to this item, does not wish to speak. Okay. Penny Harper, I believe, 1805 East Jasmine Circle, is also opposed and does not wish to speak. Okay. Charles K. Adair, 1845 North Oracle, is opposed and does not wish to speak. Don't lose this. And Robert Voigt, 1743 North Ridge Circle, is also opposed and does not wish to speak. Oh, and you have time that you want to give to Jeff Pardue. Is that correct? All right. Don't lose them for me. Okay. Was there anybody else that wanted to also do for Jeff Pardue to speak? No? Jeff, why don't you come on up here then, and I'll find your card here. So when you come up, if you could please state your name, your address, and then we'll let you go. I'm sorry I can't find your card, but go ahead, Jeff.
My name is Jeff Pardue. I reside at 1914 East Juniper Circle, Mesa, Arizona 85203. I have been a resident of this neighborhood since 2010. I have watched it grow. I have watched our families grow. When we moved in, there were no kids for my kids to play with. That has changed. The streets are full of children in our neighborhood every day, all day, during the summer and during school. There are numerous concerns from the neighborhood that we have. Some of those were mentioned today by the applicant. Some were, in my opinion, misconstrued by the applicant. One of those being parking. Parking is a concern in that neighborhood, only providing 10 more during normal days of the week, months, but what about during the holidays? Where are those families' guests going to park? They're going to park in our neighborhood, where our families park, where our kids play, where they haven't seen cousins and they're excited and they run out into the street. Jensen is a drag strip. There are no speed bumps. Furthermore, on Gilbert Road, the proposed street that this sits on ends at Jensen and is used as a passing lane above 60 miles an hour to get into traffic and merge back onto Gilbert. There are 3 lanes, the right one ends. That is what butts up to this townhouse. It is difficult for me traveling home from work at the end of the day without getting run over or pushed out of my own lane to turn into my neighborhood now. I do not believe that the Y2K engineering traffic study was completed properly, where we did not see any signs. There were no ropes or the rubber things going across the street where you measure traffic ever. I do not believe that that happened. I believe it is an opinion of Y2K engineering. I would like to see the study, the dates that it was conducted, and for how long it was done. And I would highly ask or recommend that you also ask for the same. In addition to the homes that are directly affected by the property, I heard today two times how big or how tall are the trees going to be put in, and that was not answered. I did not hear a footage of a tree being put into property. I have not also heard the growth rate of those trees. I heard different types of trees. None of them have ever been decided on as far as we're concerned because they keep changing, right? So when we start talking about being able to view into our yards, I do not have a house that sits directly upon that road. However, they can see into my yard from a 2-story window directly into my yard. And I have very strong concerns of my neighbors and their concerns for people being able to see or throw trash over the wall despite it being 8 foot. I don't believe that the trees would be tall enough to block a view in 5 years. Again, for me, that's my opinion, but I haven't heard what kind of tree, and I haven't been able to do any kind of study for that. In regards to home values, directly across the street, catty corner from me, this week, they had a cash buyer for that home that was declined after, and I can provide the emails if you wish, and the name and address of the owner after. But they have an email directly from a cash buyer saying that, hey, is it true that a townhouse or apartments are going up? Yes, it is true, they answered. We decline. They backed away. So when you start talking about value, it might not devalue it today, but it's already stopping the sale of homes in my neighborhood. My home is for sale. I do not have a buyer yet. I am very concerned about losing the value of my home. There are 11 halfway houses in our neighborhood. Crime is rampant. Most times the cops won't come out because the people have already left. It is all over our Facebook neighborhood talking about how the police won't come out. We have people coming into the neighborhood throwing frozen water bottles at kids' faces. And it's not okay. It is not fair to them. They do not have a safe place to play now. And only crowding that area would make it worse. We deserve a safe place for our children and our families to grow up just like they do. I heard 2 times that he was asked if it was a property for rent or to buy. I didn't get a clear answer on that either. I heard it, for now, it's proposed. It will be for rent, and those people will not be living in that neighborhood for long term. Sorry, I lost track. That's all I have. I can't remember what else I was going to say. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Lane Mortensen. I reside at 1931 East Jacaranda Circle. I was actually the house highlighted by Tim. My home is that home that butts up right to the fence, and I have a side door and a back door that are approximately between 10 and 15 feet from that fence. Again, the trees we talked about, I'm not sure they decided, but I think they're asking for a variance that they can put those trees a little bit closer to the fencing. I'm concerned about the spread of the trees. I mean, obviously, the larger the tree, the bigger the spread, the higher it goes. But also that means more of that spills on to the other side, unless they're set back farther. I don't know if there is an appropriate setback. I mean, I know they're zoned at 30 feet. They're set back that far. But for this type of a complex and use, as everyone stated before, it's just not the right fit. Those residences were zoned, I mean, those two things were zoned residential. Both of those residences originally on those plots went into decay. They went to basically being torn down. Those lots were put there for a reason, for the homes to be built there. I don't think any of us want those lots to sit there dormant and with nothing on them. But this type of a project is not the place, or at least in the way it stands. Fewer units. You can still have multiple units in there. On that acreage, you could probably put 2 fourplexes, or 4 homes in that acreage with a small little U-turn driveway or U-turn street, or a circle like I live on. So there are some things that we know will go in there, and we're not opposed to that, but we are opposed to the density, the way they sit, and just the potential of not keeping with the aesthetics and the intent of that neighborhood, which is to have a single-family unit home where you can raise your children, where you can have a sense of comfort and community. And as stated by Mr. Pardue, like I said, these units won't be for sale. I mean, that's what they're going to start out as probably, but they will be for rent. You will have additional people. I believe they're all 3-bedroom units. And what's going to happen is you will have renters there with 3 cars. You have 26 units. There's 10 extra spaces. When you have 3 renters, you're going to have 3 vehicles. Where's the 3rd car sit? Those 10 spaces will get taken up very quickly by the extra tenants, and then no one is able to park there except they park over at Kwan's or in front of Ned's Crazy Sub, or possibly in Tudor time on the off chance. So there is going to be parking issues. And if you're coming home with groceries and you've got to park over in not Fry's, but right over there at KTR or Kwan's, you're going to be carrying your groceries across Gilbert Road to get into your place, because there will not be parking. Again, we're not opposed to something happening to those lots, but not this unit in the way it stands in the current capacity. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Lane. Jamie Mortensen.
Hi, my name is Jamie Mortensen, 1931 East Jacaranda Circle, Mesa, Arizona, 85203. I live with him. One of the things that my husband didn't mention is that the way our house sits on that lot, in all of these renderings, our house is put up as just a block with no windows and no people. And the way our home sits, and like he said, there is 2 doors, but there's also 3 windows. And from where I stand at my kitchen window, from my dining room table and my I can see directly to Gilbert Road. Sometimes you can see the tops of cars going over that large fence that Mr. Crockett spoke of. And there is, and you can see directly into the house that sits behind us now as it sits. In fact, for years, I stared at a toilet that sat in that empty house. You can see it clear as day, which means that if there's people behind us, they have that access to my home because of the way my home sits on that lot. I have 10 children, I have a pool, I have 6 daughters, and I feel like if I am a honest tax-paying person who pays my property taxes, pays all the things, obeys the law, then the law and the protections and the zoning then should protect me and the privacy that happens in my home with my family. We should be able to be inside of our home and not have anyone be privy to what goes on inside of my home through my windows. I think the trees, like they said, are an issue. No one has discussed exactly what that's gonna look like, and no one's in charge of Mother Nature, so who knows how that's gonna work out. A taller fence line, the way these are built, sounds more three-story if you listen to the feet that they're speaking of. And no one can guarantee, but also the root systems that these trees have. If we're asking for a variance to make that planting box smaller, then we have a whole root system, and that affects our fence line. We already have a tree that sits on that lot that we've killed multiple times, and that root system comes back, and it comes right under our cool decking, or not our cool decking, but our patio pavers, and lifts all of our pavers. So is that what we're gonna deal with in the future with a whole line of trees along the other side of that fence? Is that going to destroy our fence line over time? Those are my major concerns, along with the traffic going down Jensen. There's a retention basin on Jensen, and on any given day, our children are out there for hours. Kids are in and out, and we all know the kids that are coming, and we know to look. People that are going to be leaving this, to turn left, those parents that come out of tutor time, they flip a Yui right there by Kwan's. Every single time. So you're gonna have the competition of the people trying to come out of Kwan's, flip the Yui. It's already competition to get across, for us to get across 3 lanes of traffic to get in our neighborhood if we go to Water and Ice, or I don't go to Starbucks, but Starbucks, whatever else is over there. KTR for our kids. So I do believe that that traffic study was, I'm with Mr. Perdue as well, not sure exactly if that went well. But the concerns are safety for our children, people being able to look directly into my home, I think is absolutely atrocious, and that should be taken into consideration. People are actually living in these homes, they're not the blocks seen on the screen. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jamie. Kevin Nelson.
Hello. I didn't think to make notes, so I tried to do it just now so I don't forget anything. But Kevin Nelson, 1309 East Halifax, 85203. I'm outside of the 1,000-foot zone that they showed, but I am in this neighborhood, and I drive past here every single day. My concern is just north of here is the 202, and there's a long stretch on the 202 before and after Gilbert. If you want to get off the freeway, it's either Country Club, almost 4 miles away, or Val Vista. So we have a lot of people that take that exit, and what hasn't really been touched on is exactly at this property, it goes from 3 lanes down to 2. And you have everybody coming off the 202, and it's already a nightmare right there in that spot. And there's also a median there. So anybody that's going to the Starbucks or Kwan's or anything, they actually come up closer to that exit so that they can turn left out of there, which is almost in line with this property. So it's already a nightmare. Everybody, like they were saying, everybody's jockeying to get in and merge and all that stuff. And to add, basically, we're opposed to this because we think the zoning is correct. Single family is what it should be. And we're not opposed to things being built, like they said. It's an empty lot now. We'd love to see more single family homes being built, but this is just the wrong project. It's gonna be a nightmare. Also, my parents have their neighbors have trees built along the fence. It's not theirs, it's the neighbors, and they have a pool, and it's always a nightmare when they shed. It's always clogging up their pool, and there's nothing you can do about it. And so all these neighbors, if you look, I noticed that most of them have pools. Now they're gonna have all that to deal with as well. And because of the 3 lanes down to 2, I know when I come out of Water and Ice or Starbucks, I need to turn left to get into the neighborhood that way. So I go up to that exit, and I'm turning left, going around the median. It's already hard. You add in 26, homes right there, it's gonna get harder. So it's either gonna be very difficult, or they're gonna just say, turn right, and turn right on and go into the neighborhood. And now you're gonna basically increase massive traffic from this entire complex going through the neighborhood up to Harris and going out that way. So again, just to repeat, we just think it's zoned correctly as it is, and we just plead that you don't change the zoning. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Larry Nelson.
Larry Nelson, 2309 East Hale, 85213. A lot of things he just said. There was mention that there's a lot of commercial north of there, and they were talking about using this as a buffer. It's zoned for single family now. Putting multifamily is a less of a buffer than what's there now. That's one thing. Kevin hit on the traffic. At that point, it is going from 3 lanes to 2. Everybody's merging. You're adding more traffic right at that spot, so that's been touched. I am a retired firefighter. I spent 33 years as a firefighter with the city of Phoenix, 15 of it driving fire trucks. I'm looking at this plan, and I know from my point of view, it's a nightmare for a firefighter. First off, he's right. There are going to be people parking on the street. I've seen it for 33 years I saw this. Similar developments where no parking signs everywhere, people still park. Somebody comes to visit for the night, comes to have dinner, the parking spaces are full, they park on the street. Now you've come down to a single lane. First off, fire trucks are big. In the case of an emergency, I have seen where we couldn't get access, especially in a fire. A single family, a single home fire is called a 2-in-1. Two engines, 1 ladder. Might be able to fix that in there. If you get a multi-family dwelling, an apartment, it turns into probably a first alarm. You're looking at 5 engines and 2 ladders. Look at that and tell me where you're going to put those. How much access do the fire department have? You're going to end up with a fire truck in there trying to handle whatever's happening, and all the rest of them parked out on Gilbert, and the firefighters walking in to help the ones that are there that won't have enough equipment. I also talked about that exit being only for service vehicles. Is it going to be gated? Is it going to be locked? No, that means the residents, it's busy that way, they're going to turn around and go out that way. It's there, it's an exit, it will be used. So again, more traffic in exactly the wrong spot. What else? Come on. So I think it hit most of the points, but basically I think fire department access, having been there, I've seen it, and it is a problem for a fire department. I don't know how you could adequately fight a multifamily fire. Or I've had a number of incidents in places like this where people were parked. There was actually one where people were parked on both sides of the street. It was a heart attack. The person died. We had to park out on the main street and walk through the complex to get to it because the cars parked on the street on a no parking street blocked all access to the fire truck. That's a small street, very narrow. Anything that gets in the way is going to cause a problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Richard Alston.
Hi, my name is Michael Richard Alston. I reside at 1930 East Juniper Circle in Mesa, Arizona, 85203. My property is at the far southwest corner of this project. I'm going to have to change up what I was going to say because everybody has already spoken about most of the things I want to talk about. I am concerned about the traffic. When I leave to go to work in the beginning of the day, I can't get out of there. I'm sitting there waiting and waiting, waiting for all the traffic to turn safely. It's a dangerous corner as it is right now. Adding that many vehicles is going to be ridiculous. It's as you mentioned before, it's an artery coming off of that freeway. And to be honest, comparing this place with the Allen couldn't be further from something they should compare that to. Every time I hear a comparison of the Allen, it makes me crazy, because the Allen's on an odd shaped triangular lot. And so that fits the definition of an infill. This is not an infill property. This is a property that can be, just about anything can be built in there. You could put a little restaurant or something in there. There's been other projects that were on the table, but then now they want to go in and congest it with 26 or 27 units. So my concern is, the gentleman over here mentioned that it is now on the books as rentals. So, and every time you ask the gentleman a question, he talks around it, and he says, well, it's proposed that we're going to do that, but as something for sale, but right now it's not. So you've got 3-bedroom apartments basically here, and nobody can afford a home these days, and so they're going to go in and rent this place. But I don't know if you've noticed that you've got people joining together to rent a place, and so now you've got 3-bedroom apartments. You're going to get young people, 3 of them at least, and they're each going to have a car. So that's 3 cars pretty much per unit, and so that's going to be the crowd too. And I don't know if you noticed that they asked for a setback for the distance between the garages, so there's even a small area for that that's not within code either. So they're asking for so many variances for this small little area of land. I'm also concerned with the fact that they took off the label of the dog park that is right outside of my bedroom window. They took the label off of it, but yet still sits the dog park that's there. You've got 27 units. How many dogs is that going to be out there barking outside of my bedroom window? And that's just for me personally, you know. So I do work in the healthcare field, and I am on call constantly, and I do need my sleep. There's enough dogs barking in the neighborhood as it is. I really don't appreciate that being right outside of my window. So to be honest with you, I have kids. They drive. I'm worried about them getting in an accident. And to be honest with you, if something detrimental happened to them, it would be devastating. And adding more fuel to a fire is basically what we have with the traffic that we have. I know a lot of people mentioned. I have a lot of other things I'd like to say, but I think my time is up. But I think you see where where all of us are going here. This is not a good infill. It's not. Okay, thank you.
Appreciate your time, Mr. Elster. Tyler Wright. Tyler Wright.
Chairman, members of the board, it's been a few years since I've stood before a planning and zoning board. I can't say I miss it. Listening to staff and the applicant with their polished presentations and neighbors who suddenly become experts in property values and traffic patterns and crime, it's pretty good theater that I enjoyed for many years. I had decided I was going to stay out of this fight. I live about a quarter mile from the site, but until yesterday when I read the staff report and it got my blood boiling a little bit, my concerns are simple. There are too many units crammed onto this property that's 2 acres in size. The primary issue revolves around the bonus intensity zone overlay to accommodate density of almost 14 units per acre, density that you don't see out of that most jurisdictions don't see out of their downtown area or light rail areas. This is it's way too many units on this small parcel. The purpose of a BIZ is to permit modifications to development standards, fostering greater intensity and encouraging unique, innovative, and high-quality developments. The proposed modifications, including reductions to building setbacks, landscape yards, building separations, do not align with the intent of the BIZ. The deviation shot should be justified by exceeding minimum development standards, offering more open space, connectivity, public amenities. Regrettably, this proposal falls short on all of these fronts. Staff has recommended approval, saying these development standard deviations can be approved so long as the project includes distinctive superior quality designs and incorporates sustainable design elements. The problem is it doesn't. The city zoning ordinance defines the superior design as one that meets all 5 of the following elements: emphasizes holistic design, includes a responsive approach to the site, is sustainable in design, provides site and design standards that exceed standard development requirements, and creates great public spaces. Now, even if we could come to an agreement on what is holistic and sustainable, all of those things that these farmhouses may be, we know for sure that it does not meet the minimum development standards nor provide great public spaces. That's the intent of the BIZ. Somewhere along the way, the bonus intensity zone, originally intended for unique redevelopment opportunities, has been misused. It's become a cut and paste of every other recently approved project in Mesa, such as the Allen, the canals on Baseline, all of these other projects which come with their own problems, and if you don't believe me, you can talk to your city council about those. It's being used to sidestep basic development requirements like landscape, setbacks, building separations, ultimately increasing density without delivering the promised unique and innovation. Thank you.
Mr. Wright, thank you. I'd like to ask if we could hold the applause. 1, it interrupts the speaker, and 2, it's actually taking a little bit more time. So just in an effort to try to get through all of you guys so you all get a chance to speak, I'd appreciate it if we didn't have the applause. I know everybody's excited, everybody wants to get up and speak. That would work just fine, yes. Thank you, though. I understand that everybody wants to get it up here and to speak. So Maggie Brooks.
Good evening, committee members. My name is Maggie Brooks. I live at 18, my husband, Robert, you saw the card. Robert and I live at 1832 North Gilbert Road. Our property is directly south of the proposed townhouse development. So we are the ones where our driveway marries up with the townhouse driveway. It is entrance and exit. So at the design meeting, I brought up the fact, so sometimes, so it's a gated community. They gotta put their code in, and then they gotta stand there and wait for Gilbert Road to clear. Well, again, it's exhaust pollution that is spewing, and it's spewing at us. So I and my husband are against this property. And I'm in agreement, and I'm sorry, I'm one of the people clapping for such very good points that the other community members and our neighbors spoke up about. We also, our property goes all the way back to the west, right next to Richards. And when he said the little dog park, it's not a dog park, it's where they're gonna go and use the little piece of grass. My question is there a manager on site? Probably not. So there's gonna be a can, and they're gonna clean up and put it in there. Now, who's gonna empty that can? Somebody's gotta take that trash with the dog and go all the way. It's not. No one's gonna be watching that kind of stuff. But again, our property is going to be the one that's inundated with that kind of smell and flies. So again, very against it. It is too dense, in my words. And again, I'm shaking my head in agreement with, yes, it's crazy. When you see it, Tim brought it up on the screen, and there's this big chunk that's all these homes crammed in there. It is way too many. Traffic, everything else. Another question, and I saw it on the design, is a retention basin. It's gonna rain, folks. And when it does, I hope that retention basin can collect enough water and not run into our property. So the other one is lighting. Nothing was mentioned about lighting. Noise level, we got 26 units that are pumping out air conditioning units. And you can hear that hum. And now 26 hums Well, guess who gets to hear it? Our property, the families on the west of us. So again, I said my address, but I didn't mention we have lived there for 31 years and sure would like to live a lot more, okay? If this fits into our community. We like and love our neighbors and the activities that go on. This is family-oriented. And again, if there's not a complex manager, I'm afraid it's going to deteriorate.
That's your time.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it, Ms. Brooks. Let me make sure you get that right. Thank you. Laura Skinner. There we are.
Laura Skinner, 1917 North Oracle Circle. First off, I'm a little bit interested that we get 3 minutes to rebuttal what Mr. Boyle said, which had so many inaccuracies in it, that I hope you reach out to somebody who can share that with you, because he was not genuine in what he shared. I know a city needs to grow and change over time, but unless a project is needed for the city, if all of the neighbors are against the project, I do not know why our city would approve it so a developer and a landowner can earn a bunch of money. If those of us who live in this neighborhood do not want the project, then why do you as a city need one more apartment complex? Because Mr. Boyle from the beginning said, oh, we'd like to sell them, but we know they won't sell. That's what he told us at our first meeting. It'd be too expensive in today's economy, so we know they'll be rented, which I know is not what he shared today, but that's what he has shared with us in the past. You notice he mentioned the Allen multiple times, but nobody ever mentions the property on 2nd Avenue and Horn. I go by there at least 4 times a week. There are always cars parked along 2nd Avenue. There are cars parked in the sports complex over there. There are cars parked behind every single garage going sideways, because all of those people, if they don't have an extra car, they're using it for storage. And every single parking space is full. So for him to have these that they back up to each other on a very small road and garages back up to each other, people are going to still try to park along there, just like the gentleman who had been the fireman said. They're going to try to park along there because their garage is full of things, or they have a third car. And so what are they going to be able to do? It's not even feasible for them to be able to do that. I was a little disappointed in Design Review Board's comments. He neglected to mention how one of the board members said, I think you're going to have to make a 5-point turn to get into these garages because the road's so narrow. Another one mentioned how you're going to have to, there's only a few parking spots that you're going to be able to have guests, so only a few people can have a guest at any given time. I'm thinking, are they going to have you sign up to have somebody come over? And so to me, it felt like all he wanted to mention is they're doing no trees. It's amazing to me how often the trees get brought up. Having an apartment complex that is so dense and so unfair to the neighborhood, kind of who cares about the trees? Because once those trees are put in and once the city approves the project, if those trees die, there's nothing the neighbors can do about it. Those trees could be gone in a minute, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. Let me see, look at my notes.
I'm sorry, you're out of time, Ms. Skinner.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Thank
I appreciate your comments, thank you. Greg Lambright? There he is.
Chairman, members of the board, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak today. I'll speak very quickly. I believe somebody mentioned that they gave me their time. I don't know if that shows up in there. Tyler did a great job mentioning the concerns about the BEIZ overlay for this project. I've applied for many projects and tried to get these overlays, sometimes successful, sometimes not, because we didn't meet all of the requirements for these overlays. They're very important for the city of Mesa to have these overlays. I think my biggest concern is when we look at projects like the Allen, There are projects that have recently been done. You talked about one this afternoon in your study session, Rogers and Main, I believe, the Allen, 32nd and Southern, and 2nd Avenue and North. When you look at these projects, they don't have windows looking into the neighbors' yards. The Allen specifically rotated all the buildings so that they would not look into the neighbor's yard. All of those are unique, and they don't have homes looking into the yard, which is not what we're getting here. And so as those have been approved, take a look at those site plans, and you'll see that the sight lines are very different than what we've been given here today. We've talked to Mr. Boyle about this numerous times. He won't listen to our concerns about that. I mean, it would be I'm an architect. I understand how these things go together. Very easy. I laid out some site plans for him where it would work, that we're not looking into the neighbor's yard. It's very easy. The separation between these buildings at 9 feet as you're driving down Gilbert Road, you can't even tell that they're separated. And the biggest part about this is the BIZ overlay. Those are, I'll read it again. They're to foster greater intensity and encourage unique, innovative, and high-quality developments that are good for neighborhoods. For neighborhoods, not the development itself, but it's good for the neighborhood. There's nothing about this development that is any good for the neighborhood. He's taken every single restriction and gotten rid of them because of his need to cram so many units on this little tiny lot. We've asked for him over and over to reduce this down to eight units, and he refuses to do that. And I understand that the development costs today are sky high. We're all facing that. Everybody faces that, but that shouldn't be a reflection on what we have to take as a neighborhood so that they can make a bunch of money. And I mean, I really like to make money on my projects. I really focus on doing that every single time. Doesn't always work out, but I understand that need as a developer. So maybe this site isn't exactly right. The other thing is I've lived in this neighborhood for 30 years. 25 years ago, we started having neighborhood meetings. We built a great neighborhood. We have a lot of activities together. We have been waiting for Gilbert and McKellips to turn into something decent. And the last two or 3 years here, all of a sudden, Gilbert and McKellips is transforming. This is not the highest and best use for the city, for the community, for the neighborhood. We really need something here that generates tax dollars for the city, something commercial. On the 2030 plan, this site is mentioned on the border, on that transition area from commercial to neighborhood. We would really like to see something commercial here. There's previously an opportunity for a Salad and Go to go here. The direct neighbors, when that happened, I don't remember getting a notice on that where I should have. They didn't want that Salad and Go because of the noise from the speaker for ordering. And today we all know that you can order different ways than having a Jack-in-the-Box speaker yelling at you. And so there's new opportunities for us to look at commercial projects, drive-through projects like that can be laid out on a site like this and generate tax dollars for the city. Rental projects provide a tiny amount of tax dollars, and I just don't think this is the highest and best use for this site, for the community, for the neighborhood, and for the great people that I live around. And so thank you so much for your time. Most of this has been mentioned that I wanted to go over in my list here, so I'll turn it back over to the next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lambert. Next up is Steve Irvine.
Hello, I am Steve Irvine. I'm a person who has spent my professional career developing and making recommendations to state commissions and city councils, and that, if memory serves correctly, that includes withering yet joyful cross-examination by my favorite utility lawyer, Mr. Crockett, And in that career, one of the things I've learned is that as a career technocrat, I'm not a technocrat in zoning, I do utilities, but one of the things I've learned is that you can apply all the metrics, you can do all the, I don't know, the terms you've used here, does it meet the plan? And you can still come out with a bad idea. And one of the things I've learned is that you have to ask yourself at the end of the day, okay, does this make good sense? Does it make horse sense? Does it pass the horse sense test? And you need to do that before you stand up in front of a commission or a council to make sure you haven't come to a bad conclusion. And I think this is a bad conclusion. I think it's one of those cases. And I want to share my horse sense with you on this issue because that's democracy. I'd like to think that people can buy a single-family residential home with neighbors that are single-family residential homes and not have them leveled and replaced by two-story apartments with windows that get to look down into your yard. One of the houses is vacant, but one of the lots is vacant, but there was a house there before. I helped put a roof on that house with many of my neighbors. And as you've heard, this isn't infill. This is replacement of single-family homes with multifamily homes. And there might be times and places for that. There may be, if you buy a home with a vacant lot that's never been developed, sure, that's infill. If you buy it in a place where there's lots of multifamily, multi-story, that's fine. If you build it in a transit corridor, that's fine. I don't think my neighbors expected that. Now, I appreciate they're going to put up trees, but the city has no regulatory authority to assure that they'll go quick, that they'll grow wide enough to provide an adequate screen, no regulatory authority to prevent that they'll die or that the wind will blow them down. The builder can say, sure, we've built it, there's a screen, we're fine. And my neighbors will have people looking in their yards where the kids are swimming in their pools, and I don't want that for them. I think this project, my sense of this project is that it's so dense because this is profiteering at the expense of my neighbors, and it's just not the right fit for this neighborhood. And I don't want that for them. Please don't do that to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Irvine. Appreciate your time. Catherine Margaritis? Did I say that right? Oh, wow. Kudos to me today. I did something right.
Okay, Catherine Margaritis. I live at 1912 East Jensen Street. And so you've heard all these comments on Jensen Street, but I actually live on Jensen Street, and I see all of the traffic problems on Jensen Street. And I live probably the fourth house from Gilbert Road, and I tell you, by the time people reach me, and I'm not exaggerating, people are probably going 40 miles an hour. They speed down our streets so bad. And I think that we get a lot of traffic too because when they put speed bumps on McClellan, people didn't want them. So they're avoiding the speed bumps, going down our street. And another thing I've seen, we have a lot more kids playing outside, especially across the street from me. And I hear brakes squeal all the time, slamming on their brakes because the kids are outside playing, maybe running the street, their ball goes into the street, and we constantly see kids almost get hit. And another thing is when you're coming down Gilbert Road, like they say that it turns into 2 lanes and then the turn only on to Jensen, well, we've had a few people hit the irrigation thing that stands there on the corner. It's been crashed into because they can't get over or they don't realize, oh, it's only 2 lanes now. And so that thing's been repaired a few times and it's never been repaired right because water is always on the sidewalk from it. But I do believe there's not gonna be enough parking and people they're gonna come and park on Jensen Street along with maybe parking in Gunnels or parking at Tudor Time. It's not gonna be enough parking spots. And another thing is, in order for them to go to the grocery store, the fastest way is they're gonna turn out of their complex and they're gonna go down Jensen Street. We're gonna get way more traffic because of this, and so I'm against it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Margaritis. Rebecca Irvine.
Hi,
Hi, my name is Rebecca Irvine. I live at 1840 North Oracle. I've been an Arizona resident for nearly 50 years and lived in the neighborhood for more than 20. Of course, Mesa has changed a lot over the last 50 years, but some of the neighborhoods are still working to retain what many would consider a desirable lifestyle. The Candlelight, Royal Palms, and Jensen Square neighborhood is definitely one of those. There's a wide variety of reasons why neighbors dislike the proposed idea of the farm homes concept that's being planned. And I'd like to state outright that I firmly support the numerous other reasons being voiced by my neighbors here today. But instead of repeating the same issues over again, I'd like to spend my comment time focusing on one of the reasons given for building this concept and why it is not a valid argument. One of the primary reasons we have heard multiple times is that these are going to be rental homes. The farms homes, they've been building those, they're saying there's a drastic need for additional housing. So I spent some time looking into this claim, and here's what I found. 3 years ago, in 2021, the Maricopa Association of Governments reported a non-seasonal vacancy rate of 5% for rental units in the county. But over the past 3 years, that 5% vacancy rate has nearly doubled. The Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development reported last July that the Phoenix Mesa Chandler area, including some parts of Pinal County, had an 8% rental vacancy rate. iProperty Management reported in November 2023 a vacancy rate of 9.8%, and less than a week ago, a local television news station reported the Phoenix metro area rental vacancy rates between 9 and 10%. Clearly, vacancy rates of rental properties will continue to rise. This is not surprising considering the amount of construction currently in play. A Tribune article from last year reported Mesa Downtown Transformation Manager Jeff McVeigh saying there are currently 1,500 to 2,000 residential units in various stages of the planning process just for downtown Mesa. Additionally, there are more than 800 apartments approved for construction in the Fiesta District. And I'm sure there are numerous other smaller complexes being planned, including some by Mr. Boyle. Clearly, there is not going to be a shortage of housing in Mesa in the near future. In fact, it is likely that by this time next year, the vacancy rate will be in the double digits, similar to pre-pandemic levels. Now, I believe many in this room actually support the Planning and Zoning Commission for bringing more apartments to Mesa. The corridors along the light rail and by the US 60 with their walkable retail and public transportation facilities are ideal places for such projects. But is bringing high density apartment living appropriate for a small 1.acre infill plot, especially when vacancy rates of rental units will be over 10% by the time it's built, or when it doesn't fit the tenor of the neighborhood and is already causing turnover and declining property values? I, for one, say no, it's not needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Jay Carpenter. There he is.
No. My name is Jay Carpenter. I live at 1807 East Juniper Circle, Mesa, Arizona. And I'm right next, well, I'm in close to the neighborhood that is being discussed, the project being discussed. I'm not an expert on development. I'm not an expert on setbacks. I'm not an expert on all those things. My background is as a mortgage broker. I've been in the business 35 years, and I know the last couple of years have been very difficult for people to buy homes. Prices have gone up, and interest rates have gone up, and home prices, rental and mortgage payments have gone up. It's not uncommon for me to see a young family trying to buy a home, and their parents come in and they co-sign with them because they can't afford to do that. It's not uncommon for me to see 2 or 3 single individuals going together to purchase a home. And we are able to do it that way. So when I look at this project and I say, okay, this is a rental unit, maybe they'll sell them, maybe not, probably not, because I haven't heard that. Then what's gonna happen is young couples are gonna come in and they're gonna wanna rent that property. And they're gonna say, well, we can't afford it. So what do? They're gonna get somebody to come in with them to co-sign or rent with them, and there's going to be more than just a couple. It's going to be a couple and someone else, because this is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath project. And or it's going to be several individuals, young adults, coming together, 3, 4, and they're going to go in to have a place to live. Nothing wrong with that. I agree with that. The issue that I have as I look at this and I think in my mind, okay, what's going to happen? I kind of know what's going to happen because I've seen it. I've been there. I do this. That's my business. So you've got a long driveway coming into the south side. It's 1.8 acres. And then you've got a driveway goes down there. It's been narrowed to keep everything together as best they can. So if I lived at the end of that driveway and I'm going past 26 homes to get to mine, hopefully there's not 2 or 3 people trying to get in and out at the same time. And then when I'm leaving in the morning and I'm backing out and there's another 26 homes I have to go by, I think I'm going to be pretty upset just getting out of the project or getting into the project. It's going to be a very difficult project to get in and out of, especially if there's 2 or 3 extra people that are living in these homes to make them affordable, and there's extra cars. It's just what's going to happen. So I've seen projects. My daughter and son-in-law bought a home in Copper Crest.
So Mr. Carpenter, you're out of time. If you could kind of wrap it up.
Oh,
really
I'm
quickly for
sorry.
us, I appreciate
Okay,
it.
I'll wrap it up. Thank you.
Sorry. Oh, there you go. Okay. Truly Carpenter, you can continue. How's that for him?
I live at 1807 East Juniper Circle. I've lived there 30 years. The project is being packaged as affordable, low-income housing. There will be a token gesture to sell some units, but let's just call this project what it is, an apartment complex. It's implied that to fill the apartments, the owners may apply to have this complex qualified for subsidized housing. My husband and I managed apartments many years ago that had Section 8 tenants. And as the number of our Section 8 tenants grew, so did crime and decline in the neighborhood. Frequently, we had police called to document property damage and to settle disputes. When you get a government agency involved, a government program, it's difficult to evict troublesome tenants. Now, the increase in crime in Mesa is frequently a topic in our local television newscasts, and it seems like the escalation of projects like this one, which are popping up all over Mesa, have a direct correlation to the uptick in crime in our city. I'd also like to, okay, I'm doing good. Okay, I wanted to address that on Jensen, underneath Jensen, there on both sides of Gilbert Road is a large tunnel that I have been told takes water to the city of Phoenix. And this is often torn up, and several times a year there's construction, and it lasts for several weeks, if not months. And so if this project is going to likely make traffic on Jensen increased, that's just another thing for you to consider. Years ago, well, not years ago, the increase in traffic in our area will make us all less safe. We already lost a precious little girl a few years ago who was hit by a car. It was devastating to our neighborhood, which has always nurtured, protected, and treasured our children. We don't want more deaths and injuries. I ask you to please value the life and safety of our neighborhood more than gratifying the money-making aspirations of the project's owners. No amount of money is worth the cost of a human life. And we have personal family experiences with the traffic issues on Gilbert Road and Jensen. And my own son totaled a car there, and luckily he wasn't severely injured, but we know personally of the hazards, and I hope that you will consider this and value our neighborhood more than the greed of investors. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carpenter. Rebecca Lambright. I guess I got you mixed up earlier. Should have been right next to your husband.
My name is Rebecca Rucker Lambright. I'm a fifth-generation resident of Mesa, and I've lived on my street for 30 years. And most of my neighbors have lived there longer than myself. We did not leave our beloved Mesa for Queen Creek or Gilbert like many people did in times past. We have stayed and we love it there. I do want to point out, we have been working with Josh, or with Tim, trying to do meetings. We've held them in our home. My husband's an architect, so he's very familiar with all these things. So we have been trying to do that. And I appreciate that Josh is doing his job as a city development person, but it feels like he's an advocate for the developer, and we are on our own. So I guess we are relying on you, the board, to listen to the citizens and help us. We did do a design review board meeting a couple of months ago, and I read through the minutes recently, and it just mentioned that Greg Lambright was against this project. We had given all of our time to him so that he would be able to speak for us, and there was over 40 people in the audience. They had us raise our hand, and they counted how many were there, and it was not noted in the minutes. So I would like to have that on the record, that there are over 33 people here that I know that are against this project. It has been mentioned, all the things that I am against too, traffic, worries about that, apartment complex issues. The one thing that I am worried about that hasn't been mentioned is sober living homes and apartments. We have 2 on Oracle Street that we have dealt with the last few years, and it has been a nightmare. Unfortunately, we've met with the city. Councilman Freeman came, the police have come, we've had neighborhood meetings. There was nothing that they could do to help us correct this, because the people claimed that there was 4 or less living in the unit, so they were safe for following the rules. However, that was not the case. There was always 8 or so people living in these homes, and we had domestic violence issues, alcohol issues, serious problems, really changed our neighborhood. Tim has also mentioned in meetings with us to go and compare this plan with some sites. He gave me 32nd Avenue or Street, I guess, in Horn, which looks like it's under construction. It is surrounded by a huge church parking lot, a business center, and 1 home that is affected by that project. So not the same as us. He said to go look at something across from the Wright House. I looked there, I couldn't see any apartment complexes at all. Maybe there's a future plan, I don't know. He told me across from Fry's on Main Street. I did find that. There's several building units there. It is on what Main Street is commercial. Totally different unit, or not comparable to our,
Could you go real quick?
to our things at all. And I do have problems with the trees. I think they are only 6 feet away from the wall, not able to live or survive or thrive there. Thank you very much.
Appreciate your time, Ms. Lambright. Teresa Adair. There she is. I feel like saying, come on down. If I had that, I wouldn't be here.
I'm Teresa Adair. I could have given my time to all of them. They've mentioned most of the things. I live at 1845 North Oracle. I did own the home at 1829 North Oracle before that one. So I have lived in this area, in this neighborhood for 38 years. Been in Mesa for 50 years, and my husband has been in Mesa for 72 years. So we have purchased a home in that area, raised our family in that area, and have enjoyed that area. My complaint is the sober living transient problem that we've had in the last 2 years. It has changed our neighborhood. As a woman who lives right across the street from that, the fear in building these apartments and them being rentals brings up more of that transient sober living idea in my mind. And I have had it where they have stared at me, watched me. I have people in my neighborhood I don't know. A lot of times I'm at home alone. I lock my doors and keep everything shut. We have cameras in the neighborhood from all of our neighbors. We have bonded together. We bonded together before this, and we've bonded together with this. This is not a good fit for our neighborhood for all the reasons that they have already stated. The one on the traffic, I thought, that's just an accident waiting to happen. I don't know how we would get past a fatality there on that Gilbert southbound right-hand turn into Jensen. I don't know how, with that many people going in right there, how we would ever avoid a fatality, and that is something to consider. My life's important, my neighbors' lives are important, and it's more important than the money that the person is making off of this. I really want to keep the zoning where it's at. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Adair. Robin Rowley.
Hi, I'm Robin Rowley. I live at 1814 East Jasmine Circle. Couldn't remember there for a minute. And my complaint is similar to some others, but I'm going to go ahead and say this because I've been thinking about it a lot. The architects have claimed that we did not like the original modern design of these units. When I stated that I didn't like the design, I was not referring to the facade of the buildings. You can put any number of Swiss-style pointy triangles on the front of the structures, and it's not going to change what I'm opposed to. I'm opposed to this high-density housing in this area. Recently in my neighborhood, just west of this site where I live, and I've lived a long time there, a landlord rented many properties to a non-government organization. So this is kind of what others have referred to. This NGO then placed indigent people in these homes. These residents had a myriad of behavioral, mental health, alcoholism, abuse, and family violence issues. They should have been getting treatment in qualified facilities. Instead, the NGO and landlord were making huge amounts of money through government subsidies by housing them without bona fide treatment in our neighborhood. In the 45 years I've lived in this square mile, I've never had to call the police regarding a neighbor's behavior. Since these residents have moved in the last 18 months, we've had to call at least 5 times regarding fights, trespassing, drunkenness, loud parties at 2 a.m., and child abuse. Mr. Boyle claims these apartment units will provide lower cost rentals so his children can move in with his grandkids. But I'm afraid from what I've seen in the houses around me that this same landlord or others will buy or rent these lower cost rentals and then sublet them out to these NGOs so they can fill them with troubled people who need treatment. We've seen this to be the case in the Canals on Baseline project. The City of Mesa needs to find a way to prevent these things from happening, but the City of Mesa claims we have no recourse when they say that there's less than 4 people or less than 5 in the home. My question is, why do the rights of one greedy developer and landowner trump the objections of all these residents? I'm wondering if McKellips is the next street to go this direction. If the owners would like to build nice houses on this lot, I would not oppose putting in 5 to 8 homes. Originally, these 2 lots only had 2 houses. So reduce the number of units and increase the value of the property instead of diminishing it. We don't need this high-density, slum-like apartments in this neighborhood. Use the infill property for something that will build up the neighborhood instead of tearing it down.
Thank you, Ms. Rao. Carol Voigt.
My name is Carol Voigt, and I live at 1743 North Ridge Circle. And I just found out about this literally a couple of weeks ago. I guess when the first letter came out, I didn't get it. I was out of town. And the letter we got recently, it didn't even have the city of Mesa on it. I just thought it was an advertising to sell my house or something to that effect. But anyways, when I found out about this housing coming up, I was appalled. I've lived in this home. My husband's been there over 30 years. 97% of the homes are ranch homes, not 2 stories, 3 stories, whatever they wanted to start out with. But these homes should be single homes or duplexes and literally ranch-style homes because that's the aesthetic of the neighborhood. And of course, they mentioned all about the traffic. Our neighborhood we all get along really great. We have all kinds of activities in our square mile. I'm showing you this. I went around on my golf cart when I found this was going on because I didn't know about this sooner. And I have pages of signatures of homeowners that live here in this area. Way more than sitting out here. And I appreciate everybody coming in because we have to stand up for our neighborhood. So basically, I'm here to plead with you, don't rezone this. And don't put in these apartments. It's gonna be nothing but the Indianapolis going down Jensen Street. And then because of the 202, we got all that noise. And of course, no one informed me that they were gonna change the flight plan. So I have all the planes now. We don't need any more noise. So we're not here we're here because we love our neighborhood and we don't want it to change. Are you listening to us? I'm just asking, are your eyes glazed over? Please listen to us because this is our homes. And I won't be able to cruise around on my little golf cart either if it's going to be like the Indianapolis on these roads. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Voigt. Dale J. Sabin.
Thank you. My name is Dale Sabin, and I live at 1808 East Juniper Circle. I've been there for 22 years. We believe that the best use for the property under consideration would be the owner's first consideration, and that is a senior care facility. I believe that this was what the buyer of the Jones home were told when given a life estate so that they could so that they could have the money to live on and not have to move out of the property. Upon Mr. Jones' demise, the land reverted to the owner, and I'm not sure if it still is the same owner, but this property was purchased for that purpose many years ago and many years before there was any kind of ideas for what it would be. Apparently that changed for some reason, I don't know why. This use would avoid the sober living mess going on in other parts of Mesa, the Cobb, for instance, and also the drug use, neighborhood trash, beer bottles, cans, wrappers, needles, etc. Constant police traffic, and also transient traffic and crime that would be forced into our neighborhoods. That's come with these developments. Let's just stick with that use, a senior care facility. Not a lot of traffic, not a lot of vehicles in and out of the neighborhood. One way in, one way out. Enough parking for families to visit. Actual care being given to the neighborhood. No transient traffic in our neighborhood. How about a vote on calm and quiet? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sabin. Stuart Simons.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk. My name's Stuart Simons. I live at 1806 East Jasmine Circle, so a local resident and very active in the community. Have some notes here. I have a copy of them attached to it, as some people find my accent a little bit difficult to understand at times, and I have to motor through this. Every infill project does not have to become a high-density housing. This particular project will have a significant detrimental effect on the neighbourhood property values, particularly of houses that have borders. These will plummet, there's no doubt, and the neighbourhood as a whole will see a domino effect. We've seen this, and for sale signs have already gone up, and information provided has shown by the others that buyers are scared off by this possibility. It's not even set in stone yet. The prediction is, in turn, this will impact who buys these houses, these ones that are for sale, and how they are used, and lead to a downturn in the neighbourhood. Already, the proposed development is having a negative impact on our tight-knit community neighbourhood. As we've already seen, we've seen multiple houses bought up and used outside of legislative guidelines, and we have felt the negative effects of that. So while a narrative has been spun that this will be a benefit to the neighbourhood, and I as a group and we as a collective cannot see any positives to it. There's just none, and of any change like this to high density. Using the very numbers supplied by the developments with regards to traffic management, there is considerable concern of additional cars entering the neighbourhood, especially Jensen Road, using it as a thoroughfare. Being that development property is located on the western side of Gilbert Road and a major access to the 202 is to the north, the nearest other accesses to the 202 being 3 miles to the east or west. During periods of high traffic, Gilbert Road will be almost impossible to get across. I know that from personal experience. We understand that there is no possibility to put a light or signal in there, and so that will cause people to attempt to make a dangerous left-hand turn across 3 southbound lanes of Gilbert Road to exit left out of the property, to head north to up Gilbert Road to the 202, or use Jensen and then Williams or Harris to get back onto McKellips, so then they can make the northbound turn onto Gilbert Road. Increasing traffic on Jensen that is currently has no traffic calming devices on it, and that's where a direct cost will come to the City of Mesa, because as soon as we start seeing higher amounts of traffic, what does the city always do?
So just your time
Speed humps, yep. And it's a neighbourhood where we see lots of people exercising, walking, kids riding to school, that sort of thing. There's a large amount of pedestrian traffic on there. Consider one other thing, one comment I really want to make. Not going to get through all of it, but the development design sees the removal of the sound attenuation wall in front of the property that's currently there, and very similar to what is used on other parts of Gilbert and McKellips. This is high density properties such as this, with large amounts of people there, will have no sound attenuation and then no barrier against sound coming off Gilbert Road. I'm about as far away from the neighbourhood as you can get, and I can hear Gilbert Road. So these people are gonna, and so yeah. Lots more in there. There's plenty in the next attached to the comment card. I'd like you all to read it, because I think I had some good points.
I have 3 here that are going to be asked to give their time to Dana Duncan, so I'll read their names off real quick. So Nancy Sabin at 1808 East Juniper Circle, Shauna De Gomez at 1757 East Indigo Street, and Denise Duncan at 1918 North Forest. Is that all correct?
Yep.
Good, all right.
And I live with my wife at 1918 North Forest.
There you go.
First off, I would like to deeply thank Jeff Crockett for making it so that I'm not the only one wearing a suit here. Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Like I said, my name is Dana Duncan, 1918 North Forest. I am all about property rights, affordable infill for my children and retirees, and many of you on the board. But that's not really what this is about. As some friends of mine called the OJs put it so well, money, 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 money. This is about money. Had to wait for the money, money, money. We had a couple of people meet with Mr. Boyle, and they were talking about the price of these, and it was our assumption that they were going to be around $250,000 a unit. And we thought, oh, okay. And his partner, Mike Hudson, is he your partner? Mike Hudson boasted that they were going to get $450,000 a unit. That means if they sold all 26, they'd have just about $12 million out of this project. I was once told, who is going to spend $1 million on a home right there on Gilbert? Well, someone's going to get $12 million, or at least they're hoping to. My concern is about the density. Many of you board members live on homes that have a little acreage, some similar to what we've got going here. The city of Mesa, as we've heard from other people, tolerates 8 to 10 residents per apartment complex or per home, per single family residence. We know this because of the unlicensed sober living facilities that are in our neighborhood. I'd like you to imagine on your house, if you had 260 people living in your yard. 260 people, day and night. Each one of them having 3 cars. That would give you 81 cars on your lot, right in your home. These people would use 400, if we're looking at the average from ArizonaWater.gov, 473,000 gallons of water a year and would produce 405 tons of trash every year. Every year, you're hauling 405 tons out to the trash. If you reduce that even to 17 and had a CC&R that only allowed 4 people there, you would reduce that to 68 people at your party, at your house, with only 34 cars. They would use a quarter of the water, 119,000 gallons, and produce only 102 tons. I can understand that the space needs to be better utilized. But I would like to see the rural-ish neighborhood that we have preserved. Why can't we compromise? Why can't we have, several numbers have been thrown out, 12 to 16 high-end units with a 10-foot fence in between it and large ficus to block the views? The revenue that they would have would be similar. They'd have $7 to $8 million that they would have coming in from the sale of those units at the price that they had talked about. What is to prevent them from selling all of the units before they ever go to market? And we end up with a situation like the canal on Baseline with myriads of unlicensed sober living and a taxed police and fire department that have to go every single day on some kind of call there. Should you decide not to approve or to approve this application, please pass on to the council members that will be hearing this next that there are a handful of developers, but there are hundreds of neighbors who vote. Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Okay, that was my last card. So we will invite the applicant up to respond.
I'll see if I can,
We've been
do it
here,
in
let's see,
3.
How long? I think you got a little more than 3.
I'll try and stick it to 3 because I want to leave as much as everybody else. I do appreciate everyone for coming out, for participating in the public process. I'm not going to be able to solve all of the concerns that everyone has, but I will try to quickly explain some things that I can. The mulga trees are a low spill and a deep root tree. They will be about 8 feet, 9 feet away. Our landscape architect, that's what he recommended, so that the root system wouldn't mess up the wall. The variance that we've talked about for the BIZ, that's to allow the additional parking spaces up on the north side and to have the trash moved away from the houses. That's the variances that we're looking for. It's not to have the trees in another place or lower or anything like that. It's so that we can add the additional parking and move the trash away. The exit is gated. Only fire and trash will be able to open that gate. It's not operable by the residents of the neighborhood. And the units, they're luxury units, so they'll be sprinklered, which should help with the concerns about fire. There was some talk about it being a salad to go and a restaurant, but also there's a talk about noise and air pollution and traffic problems. Restaurants generate quite a bit more traffic than residential units. So it's very difficult to make everybody happy. We could definitely move the dog park onto the Gilbert side. There's plenty of room for those who were concerned about the dogs being in that corner. Let's see. Again, these are not going to be subsidized housing. They are for sale. The goal has always been that they'll be for sale. That's why we designed them. That's why I designed these types of units, to make them for sale. The sober living home, that's a concern that all of us have about all of our neighborhoods. We have 2 in our neighborhood as well. That's a larger problem that the city has been working on. When I was on the Planning and Zoning Board, we worked on it. It's something that the city is working on. There are federal and state guidelines that are a lot more intrusive, and the city is trying to avoid those. And finally, I wish I had a better song to play, but I just don't happen to have one. But I'm happy to answer any additional questions you may have had that came up from the speakers.
You go, Jeff. Do you want to start? Go.
Yeah, thanks, Tim, for those comments. Let me ask you about a couple of things that came up and have you just comment on these. One is the traffic issue along Gilbert Road. And I grew up just off Gilbert Road on Hackamore, so I know the issue with the lanes merging down from 3 to 2. And I will tell you, at times, as I'm heading south, I zip in from that 3rd lane over to continue on Gilbert. So just speak to the traffic concern along Gilbert Road, and then the concerns that were raised about access to the fire department inside the development and whether trucks can get in and out and maneuver around, and then also the comment about the 5-point turn possibly to get into the garages in there, and whether the street's too narrow in your opinion.
Okay. It's not showing up there.
You see it up here.
The 5-point turn, we had an original design that when you were looking through the gate, you would see a tree and there was sort of a tongue that came around like that. We took that out in the newer design. So if you see it on your packet, you should see that when you come in the gate, if you're trying to turn into those parking spaces on the south, there used to be a little tongue that kind of reached up and you would have to drive around it. That's what the 5-point turn was referring to. So we removed that after the design and review board meeting. As far as fire truck access into the site, there's no parking allowed on the inner streets. I know that these units, people certainly they can do it, but they will be, since it's for sale, the HOA would fine anyone that got caught parking their car in front of their garage. And that's, it's not allowed, so. I mean, you could park cars anywhere and block that. But 24 feet, so a drive aisle is 20 feet required for a fire truck. The 24 feet is the backup distance coming out of a garage. And so most of these types of developments have a 24-foot driveway going through them. And traffic and fire, city fire, everything hasn't had any issue with that in the past. It hasn't come up as something that's been a concern and something that's caused problems in the past. What else? Board Member Crockett?
Kind of the traffic on Gilbert Road,
traffic on
being able to
Gilbert.
get in and out of the project?
Again, yeah, so the Y2K traffic engineer said there'd be 12 to 13 peak hour trips on Gilbert, so it's not really creating a whole lot more traffic than is already on Gilbert. And the reason we only have the gate on the south side is to avoid people whipping out the north side and driving around that. But that was looked at, lots of discussions with Peter Vargas and other people who work on traffic with the city, and they were content with the design that we gave them. They're the ones that look at this day in and day out, and they're the ones that we go to for what works and what doesn't. Is that the answer of what you wanted about the traffic?
Yeah,
or?
I think so. I think for now, that's kind of answered my questions. I may have a couple of more as we go along.
Sure. Thank you.
You got anything, Jason? Thinking about it? Okay. Down this way? Nothing there. You got anything? I just have one thought, just maybe to talk a little bit through your, the BIZ overlay justification. I'd like to
Okay.
hear your thoughts on that one. That's the only one I've got a question on.
So our submittal prior to this one, everything fit within the existing setbacks, required setbacks, everything like that. We wanted there to be additional parking spaces as traffic and parking was a concern. And so when we asked for that BIZ, I don't think it's showing, the mouse isn't showing up there, but it's those top 5 parking spaces. Originally, you're required to have a 15-foot landscape setback. We've reduced that on the north side because it's just the two-time parking lot up there. It's not going to be affecting anyone who lives there. And so we pushed that up, and then the trash container, we used to have it on the northwest side. We moved it over there, and we've also moved up that closer to the north side. Those are the big asks that we have in the BIZ, just to be able to make that more convenient and to get more parking.
Gotcha. Any others? Jason, Jeffrey, go for it.
If I could, have you talked with the neighbors about a good neighbor policy to address some of the parking concerns that there may be, or anything?
We haven't. We've tried to just add additional parking, but we're happy to come up with a good neighbor policy. And if they're starting to see cars park on their street, that's something we could build into an agreement, a city agreement, that we would take care of that. My guess would be, though, if there's any overflow parking, again, we design it so there's a lot more parking than is required. I would guess that people would park to the north, to the two-time parking lot or to the other things, long before they would park on Jensen, because that's a really long walk from there. So my guess is that, on Saturdays or times when it's not there, the overflow would probably go to the north and it wouldn't end up on Jensen. But we're happy to come up with a good neighbor agreement on that.
Okay.
Jason, did you figure yourself? You're good? Okay. Jamie, you got something you said.
Yeah, I just have one question. A lot of folks had talked about the demographics of who would be living in this, and they mentioned, scenarios. Can you clarify, what is your targeted audience, or who are your residents? I know you said you can't answer whether it's ownership or rental. I understand that, but beyond that, folks talked about multiple scenarios of living arrangements.
Sure.
So
yeah.
who is your target audience?
Yeah. So again, the goal is that these would be for rent, the goal that these would be for sale.
Oops.
Stuck my foot in it there, didn't I? Now I need that music. The goal that these would be for sale. Other projects like this that we've done, typically, so if these were for sale, the ones that we looked at across from Main Street that kind of inspired these, those are selling for $400,000 to $430,000 each. So it would be someone that can afford that amount. That would likely be living here. The rents at the Allen are somewhere around $2,700 to $2,800. from the Allen, so the Allen's the close one, that's why we bring it up. There were 2 medical doctors living at the Allen. There was someone who drove a Maserati. It seems to be young professionals and retirees that typically live in these types of developments. The one across from the Fry's on Main Street, when it came in, because that's our neighborhood, we were concerned when it first came in that the same thing would happen. They would end up being rentals and low income and Section 8 and all of those things. I know the realtor, Glenna, who does that. They are primarily owner occupied, and those who have bought them have lived in them basically since they bought them. And so that's been a good sign for this type of unit being for sale and functioning as a good development.
Thank you.
One more.
Sorry, just a couple more. So if these units are sold, would then you develop CC&Rs that would be recorded to address like kind of parking limits and some of the other concerns that have been raised by the neighbors?
Yes. As a development like this, there would be an HOA that would be required to take care of all of those things. So there's an HOA. They have CC&Rs, just like any new development would have in it.
And if this winds up being a for rent project, would there be an on-site manager, or how would that work?
Well, if it was for rent, so when we say if it's for sale or for rent, our intent is to sell these. If the individual owners rent them, that's not anything that we can control, unless we can put some safeties in the CC&Rs. The legality of that is always really, really tricky. If it did end up being the whole thing was a big for rent thing, that would be up to the developer or the owner of that. If we owned it, we're not intending to put it up for rent or anything like that, then yeah, one of the people who lives in one of the units would probably be the on-site manager.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You good? Yeah. All right, any other questions for the applicant? No, I think you're good. Sorry, we can't have, yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Unfortunately, not yet. We're good.
I do have a question for Josh.
You do have, so Josh, we do have a question from the board for you, actually, though. Let's grill Josh.
Hey, Josh, I'm not going to grill Josh, but can you comment on the traffic study for this project? I know there's been a number of concerns about how people are going to get in and out, whether there's going to be issues along Gilbert Road. Could you just describe what that process looks like in terms of doing a traffic study and what the conclusions were?
Sure. So certainly, Chair and Board Member Crockett, I do have some prior experience as a transportation planner. So I do have a good idea of how typically these plans are done. In this case, I do want to add that we have also had staff on site, and the City of Mesa Transportation Department did do a traffic analysis March of 2023 on the section between Brown and McCullochs in this area. They determined that the average daily trip is 14,997, where the 4-lane capacity, while I do understand it does shift from 6 to 4, we always go for the more stricter, which would, in this case would be the 4-lane arterial, which per our standard does allow for a 45,000 daily trip average. So this is under by 30,000 trips for that would be typically required. And so because of that, with our analysis based off of not only the International Traffic Engineer manual, but also via the traffic engineer that reviewed this case, we feel that not only myself, but transportation feels like this is consistent with our typical reviews.
And chairs and board members, I just want to clarify that we are not the ones who do the traffic analysis. That would be through our transportation team. So we're giving the planning aspects of the traffic study. We don't have the traffic engineer here to answer those specific questions.
And thanks, Mary. I understand that you don't do the traffic study. I wanted to get Josh's impressions or staff's impressions on the traffic issue. You don't have a concern about the traffic associated with the new development. Is that fair to say?
Chair and Board Member Crockett, typically with the average daily trips, specifically where we look at the peak PM trips and how that would impact this, because they're not at such a density that would create for 30,000 trips. It's consistent with about 30 or so for that peak PM, which is between that 4 and 6 PM time, where you typically see traffic is consistent with that and would not be detrimental to the safety or quality of Gilbert from what it would be today.
Thank you. Is there any other question for Josh? No, you do? Okay.
I do have a question about Jensen Road and how the turning left to go north there, as it was alluded to, I was in an accident there. So I'm curious how the traffic counts for that one specifically going to head north with this choke point, so to speak, might be studied, or if it was evaluated and what that result was.
Yes, thank you, Chair, Board Member Carpenter. Again, Evan Ballmer, Principal Planner. So our traffic department did an extensive review of this. They did not express any concerns with a traffic increase on Jensen or Gilbert. Again, to Mary's earlier point, they're the experts that we rely on to review these. They are very thorough, and if there were any concerns, they would have come to our attention.
Anything else? Jamie, you're good? Everybody's good? All right. Thanks, Evan. Thanks, Josh. I think with that, we'll close the public hearing and we'll begin a board discussion. Who would like to, oh, you're gonna dive in? Let's go.
The traffic engineer is happy to start. So I appreciate everyone who spoke here today. I think I want to start out with saying that it is quite clear from all of the commentary that folks had here that there are still a lot of concerns that the neighborhood has. Parking, I know that you are, so being a traffic engineer, I know that's not my role sitting here on this, in this as a planning and zoning board member, but I am a practicing traffic engineer. So I do quite a bit of parking studies, traffic studies. I can say for a fact that what was shared from the city is that this is really a low traffic volume generator, and traffic wouldn't be a concern. In terms of the number of trips, I know folks have talked about commercial uses, even the senior living. Those are all higher generators, and that's just I'm just telling you how the practice works. But that's regardless. My concern here, I would express, is not the traffic. I am a little concerned about the parking. I know it exceeds the parking code, and I understand how that's applied with an apartment complex. But what concerns me is that the parking here on this site, what's being counted is the garage stalls, so they're not available to the guests like a apartment complex would have an open area of the 2.1 times the number of units would make it available to most, whereas these are like locked in within garages, so really what's available is the 10. But maybe that does work, but I have heard that from the folks out here as well. I think that it seems as though, I'd like to believe that the folks here also seem to be open, or some have expressed being open to the idea of potentially another use here or a more reasonable use, residential, but maybe not as intense. They're all, I think folks, I'd like to believe folks recognize that the current use is not been successful. It's not been successful for a reason, so it's no longer applicable in today. Not often are we accessing a single large residence off of an arterial roadway anymore. I think it's due for some type of changeover, and it may include additional residences on one lot or these two lots. But I think the concern is the amount. But I think there's also been a recognition that there may be an increase from 2 to 8, 12 folks have thrown some numbers out there. I think folks seem to be open to the idea. I think there's also ideas that have been thrown out on potential commercial uses that would be in alignment with what's further north. It'd be adjacent to what's north, and it would be continuing that as well. One thing I do want to mention, that if it were to be commercial uses, it absolutely will generate more trips. Like, that's just the way it works. And there is adequate capacity along Gilbert Road for more traffic. I think the bigger complaint, and I believe what you're seeing is it's not capacity that's the issue on Gilbert Road, it's probably the speed. And that's a different issue. So when we say traffic, I think a lot of folks get the two kind of mixed, and it's a combination of both. but really there's a lot of capacity on Gilbert Road for additional traffic. It's designed to do that. And that's a combination of volume and speed, right? And I get it, and during peak hours, those are difficult movements, and that's why sometimes the best move-in is a right turn when it's difficult. But certainly during different off-peak times, if you're out there, say on Saturday morning at 10 a.m., you probably can turn out pretty easily. Sorry. And this is not a conversation,
Guys,
so this is just my
It doesn't help
comments.
the comments we're trying to get through so you guys can get home too.
Yes.
Just let us get through this and then we'll.
So I just wanted to kind of explain what I'm seeing. I'm gonna say this much: if you take it to, as you move this through the system, traffic really isn't the concern on this project as much as we want to keep saying that it is. It isn't. And then I know folks also brought up a lot of things like the drainage, the fire, and all of that. And I just want to assure you, I'm certainly not the expert in those things, but the city will look at this, and the city fire department is looking at this. The city drainage engineers are looking at this. So those type of engineering items are also, I would say, off the table in terms of concerns. They will meet standards. They will be safe, designed safely. So those are not as much of the concerns. But I do hear your guys' concerns, the parking, I think it's also the density, the amount, and then also folks have talked about the views. I know we talked about trees going in and the wall going higher, but I think I can understand that the views, if there's something that can be done there. So that's where, I think that's about all I have to say.
I'll chime in here. My concern is, and I'm familiar with a lot of what you're dealing with. I've got a 250 unit, 55 and older development going right in behind me. So I know your pain because they look right at my yard. My concern though is that in this development, you've only got about 35 to 50 feet that separates you, and you've got windows that are looking straight in, where in my case, they developed it so they wouldn't. And so we've got a density issue and we've got a view issue. If the view corridor, view into the backyards were tilted, I know that one of you made those comments, then that may make a difference because you wouldn't have that direct view. But that's my concern about this development.
Nothing? Jason?
Just wanted to say, it may appear that we're not listening. I've got 3 pages of notes. So we are listening. We're taking this in. We're absorbing. We're digesting. We're considering. We respect the rights of the property owners. We respect the rights of the developers, and we understand that. I think there's true concerns here that weigh heavy on all your minds. And I think as I put my feet in your shoes, I would have many of the same concerns. I live in an area that's full of apartments and full of subsidized apartments, and I can understand the fears associated with what they may bring to your community, and I live in an area where we deal with that every day. So, I'm just saying that we hear you, we understand, we're considering it. Please don't hold, what's the word I'm looking for here? Please don't.
Accountable?
No.
You sure hold me accountable, but just understand that these things are being weighed and considered. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, nothing. You're good? Yeah. You're good. Okay. And I would echo that. Same thing, guys. Lots of notes. We take this. We're not here just because we, think this is going to be fun. This is something we're trying to help our community. We want to serve. So I will say, I lived in this neighborhood for quite some time and I know it very well. I just was on the other side of Gilbert and lived in that area, know it very well. Overall, I believe that, it's a good thought for this development. I think it's a good idea to have something like this as a buffer. Lots like this are complicated and very difficult to develop. So this as an idea and as a concept and as a use makes a lot of sense. So generally, I support infill especially on sites like this. I also appreciate all of the concerns that we've heard tonight, especially with traffic, with parking, with density. You know, however, this is within what we've seen. There's nothing new here. This is within the precedence of the nearby sites that we've seen, although it is a little high, and I have concerns too. With all that being said, however, I'm not quite sure if that this project is kind of with its current design meeting the criteria that I see when we ask for a BIZ overlay. If you look at that, as soon as you ask for that type of an overlay, there are, and I cannot remember who brought it up, I believe it was you, Mr. Lambright, that there are 5 requirements for that BIZ, and I keep saying that wrong, BIZ overlay. Holistic site and project design, a responsive approach to the site, sustainable design, site and design standards that exceed the standard development requirements, and quality public spaces and provide great public space. And however, on this current design, I do not see it meeting all of those. So I am not going to be in support of the project because of that reason alone. So with that, I'll leave it to the board if there's any more discussion or if there's anyone that would like to move forward with a motion.
Chair, board members, I just want to make clear for the record that Board Member Peterson had to leave before this vote, so there will be only 5 votes on this. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Well, then, for purposes.
Wait, I thought he was still here.
Yeah, he snuck out on us. I will go ahead and make a motion. I don't know if there will be a second for my motion, but I'll go ahead and make the motion. We'll see where it goes. So I will move that we approve case ZON 23-00559, the farmhouses at 1902 North Gilbert, District 1, within the 1800 to 1900 blocks of North Gilbert Road, located south of McKellips Road and west of Gilbert Road, rezoned from single residence RS43 to multi-residence 2 with a bonus intensity zone overlay and site plan review. This request will allow for a multiple residence development. The staff recommendation is approval with conditions. That is my motion.
Thank you, Jeff. Is there a second on that motion? I don't know. If there isn't a second, do we look for another motion?
If there is no second, then the motion fails and you can entertain a new motion.
Okay, so the motion does fail. Is there any other new motion? Jason, Jeff, Jamie?
I'll move that that ZON 23-00559 not be approved, and that's our recommendation to City Council.
Is there a second? So I'll second that. And so we'll move forward with a vote. Please, everyone vote. I think it's because he decided to leave.
Yeah, mine wasn't flashing, so hold on.
He's trying to push a button, but it's not working.
It's up there.
Oh, okay, there it goes. All right. With 3 ayes, the motion does pass.
So Chair Ayers, just for clarification, that is a denial of the recommendation from staff.
Thank you, everybody. Is there anything else from the planning? Anything else that we need before I can adjourn?
Nothing else from me, thank you.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Everyone, please, let's just do verbal. Aye. We're all good. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Picture down.